Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce you research on school self-evaluation of students with specific developmental learning disabilities in inclusive education in the Slovak Republic, research through the SPAS questionnaire. So my name is Monika Podhorská. I'm a PhD student at Comenius University Bratislava at Faculty of Education and Department of Special Education. And now we have approximately 500 students studying both bachelor's and master's program together. So, quick introduction. I'd like to present you partial quantitative research that was conducted using a student's perception of ability scale, known by the abbreviation SPAS. We wanted to determine the level of school self-evaluation of students with specific developmental learning disabilities that were aged from 10 to 15 years old and are studying in inclusive primary schools in Slovakia. So, quick background, year 2023 was a breakthrough year in the Slovak Republic in terms of law and inclusive education. More and more students with diverse needs are entering inclusive schools, also students with learning disabilities and specific behavioral difficulties. And in inclusive education, it puts increased emphasis on the needs of all students, so we need to reflect on them through interventions, attitudes, and also building self-evaluation. So, the consequences of learning disabilities such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, dysorthographia, and dyscalculia are expressed both in reduced school performance, but also the personality of the person in school self-concept and self-evaluation. From this viewpoint, students with learning disabilities are considered a risk group, so it is important to examine this issue. So, self-concept and self-evaluation are both the subject of research in psychology and special education, or in education in general. Self-concept includes individuals' thoughts, feelings, or evaluations about themselves, and self-evaluation is part of the self-concept and is understood as the result of social comparison. Self-concept in general includes academic or school or professional dimension, then social or physical or bodily dimension, emotional, psychological, and family dimension. School self-concept, which is part of the general self-concept, is defined as the perception of students' competencies in school in general on a specific academic area, for example, subject. So from one point of view, school self-concept is part of the general self-concept, and also self-evaluation is part of the self-concept. So school self-evaluation is part of the school self-concept, which is part of the general self-concept. So studies dealing with this issue of school self-evaluation of students with learning disabilities are older data, but they agree in the view that these students have lower school self-evaluation. So the methodology of our empirical research. The project was based on quantitatively oriented design. We wanted to know the level of school self-evaluation of students with learning disabilities, and we used the standardized students' perception of ability scale. Research through this questionnaire in the context of learning disabilities is mostly older, as you can see. SPAS contains 48 items that are divided into 6 subscales. First is general abilities, then mathematics, reading, writing, spelling, and self-confidence. The research set was exactly 100 respondents. There were 64 boys and 36 girls with learning disabilities that are educated in inclusive primary schools in Slovakia. The age of the respondents was from 10 to 15 years. The data were obtained in 7 districts of Slovakia through special educators in counseling centers and also school special educators in schools from September 2024 to January 2025. So we used statistical services to process the study data, and they used mathematical and statistical methods through programs as SPSS and JASP. For the descriptive statistic methods, they used mean, median, mode, and so on. They also verified the normality of the data distribution, differences between groups, equality of variances, and also compared data with norms of the SPAS questionnaire. So we established of total 12 hypotheses But for this research, we only selected 4. The age 1 was the level of school self-evaluation of boys and girls with learning disabilities is significantly reduced compared to the norm. So in general, age 2 was the level of school self-evaluation of girls is significantly increased compared to boys, so in terms of gender. Age 3, the level of school self-evaluation of younger students with specific developmental learning disabilities is increased compared to older students, so in terms of age. And the age 4, the level of school self-evaluation in the reading subscales is significantly reduced in students with dyslexia. So we wanted to know if there is a link between dyslexia and the reading subscales of SPAS, and all hypotheses were supported. So the results of age 1, which was self-evaluation in general, we needed to divide these hypotheses into sub-hypotheses based on gender and age. So the age 1 had 12 hypotheses on its own, because the size of the study set in hypothesis H1H and H1L was small. We decided not to include these two in the interpretation of hypothesis H1. This is just an example. For example, 14-year-old boys, there was a significant difference in the level of school self-evaluation. You can see the P is really small. So this hypothesis was confirmed. Another sub-hypothesis, you can see the 14-year-old girls, that there is no significant difference in the level of school self-evaluation compared to the norm. P is not that small, and this hypothesis was not confirmed. H2, so in terms of gender, the result of this hypothesis was based on the results of previous H1, and you can see that there was no significant difference between boys and girls. P is not that small, and this hypothesis was not confirmed.
3 minutes, Monika.
Okay, so so H3 in terms of age, we set the boundary between younger age and older age. Younger was 10, 11, 12, and older 13, 14, and 15. You can see there was no significant difference. P was not that small, and this hypothesis was not confirmed. And H4, you can see that there is a significant difference in the reading subscale. P was really small, with higher values found among the group with dyslexia compared to the group with dyslexia. Hypothesis H4 was confirmed. So the discussion, the goal was to determine the level of school self-evaluation of boys and girls with learning disabilities. Age 1, so the lower level of school self-evaluation was confirmed with statistical significance in 7 out of 10 sub-hypotheses in boys age 11, 13, 14, and 15, and girls age 10, 12, and 13. But given the 3 remaining sub-hypotheses of age 1 that were not confirmed, the assumption age 1 as well cannot be considered confirmed. H2, there was no significant difference between boys and girls, so our assumption was that girls would have a higher school self-evaluation than boys, but this was not confirmed. And also H3, there was no significant difference between younger and older students, so also in terms of age, this was not confirmed in our study. And H4, by comparing groups with dyslexia and without dyslexia, we found out that there is a significant difference in the school self-evaluation in the reading subscales, and the group without dyslexia had higher school self-evaluation values. So in this case, this was confirmed. So conclusion, you can the learning disabilities are not only in reduced school performance, but also affect the personality of the person. And in our research shows that boys age 11, 13, 14, and 15, and girls age 10, 12, and 13 have significantly low level of school self-evaluation. There is no difference in school self-evaluation in terms of gender or in terms of age, and there is a relationship between the diagnosis of learning disabilities and the subscales of the SPAS questionnaire that this diagnosis primarily affects. A limit was the study set, which was only 100 respondents, which we plan to expand in the future in order to re-verify the hypothesis. So thank you very much.